Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. Jesse's out in Burbank, California, preaching the Word of God out there. And Father Chad Ripperger is with us. He's coming to the Spiritual Warfare Conference, middle of this month. If you haven't got your ticket, you might want to get one of those tickets for you. You can watch it online by going to vmpr.org. Father Chad, Jess and I were discussing the state of the church and how Our Lady seems to be interceding for us. Could you give us a little thought, a little comment on the state of the church and what the Blessed Mother has been saying, I'm saying for quite some time?
It's really bad.
Yeah, you think? You think? That's funny.
It's, obviously at Akita, she said,
Yes.
She basically indicates that, the chastisement is coming,
Yeah.
And so, and if man isn't careful, it come from his own hands, but it also that it'll be cardinal against cardinal and bishop against bishop. And we're starting to see that.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's going to get even worse. That's my own opinion on the matter. And I think you'll see that a real division in the church could come. So, for example, if one of the dicasteries in Rome puts out a document that like they did just recently that could divide the church even more. And so I could see something like that actually happening. So I think it's, on the other hand, there's a side of me that looks at it from the point of view of, yeah, but at least it's becoming clear who's on what side of the equation.
Oh, yeah.
Right. What side of the battle are you going to be on? And so that's becoming clearer and clearer. The battle lines are being drawn. And so I think that's going to become clear. So it's easier to actually to deal with the actual evil that's occurring. So, and I think that ultimately it's for those who are remaining steadfast, the only way they can do so is by grace. And so Our Lady is actually providing for them.
Well, Father, I think maybe you were alluding to something. I'm just going to be direct with you because it's the only way I can be. And that is, if for some reason the Holy See tries to do something that, like, for example, ordaining women to the diaconate, it seems to me, and I'm just a Joe Sixpack guy, but it seems to me that would be the demarcation line where maybe the German church is doing it, but there'll be other conferences. Poland won't do it. It's going to divide the church. Do you believe that could divide the church, that issue of women's ordination?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Actually, if you go on my website, sensationalist.org, and go to Text Online, I actually have a thing on, it's called the Unicity of Holy Orders, which basically indicates that it's not like there's the diaconate, which is a different holy order from the priesthood, which is a different holy order from the episcopate. No, it's all one order.
Amen.
It's a matter of degree. And so, and those degrees give you different powers, it's true, but it's a matter of degree. So the fact that John Paul II said that they couldn't be ordained to the priesthood, basically arguing that it was the constant teaching of the church and therefore it was infallible by ordinary magisterial teaching, which the Congregation of the Doctrine of Faith, that's what it used to be called, confirmed.
Yeah.
So the fact is that something like this could easily divide the church between those who are going to be faithful and those who are not. I think it's going to become clearer because I think that the many who are in positions of power in the church are now at that point where they want to press their advantage. They're just going to do it. They're going to go all out, I think, at this point. I mean, that's the way it's looking.
Mm-hmm. Jesse?
Father, are you hopeful with the meeting that the FSSP leadership had with Pope Francis? Was it a step in the right direction, or was it big nothing burger, or was this just a shell game? I mean, what do you think? Do you think there's going to bear good fruit?
Yes. I should say to all of the above. It could be any one of those. So, the reason I say that is because it could just be a nothing burger. On the other hand, I doubt that's the case because the Pope would not want to have an audience with him unless there was something he didn't want to discuss. There was also, of course, the issue brought up of concelebration, but on the other hand, they've always encouraged the fraternity to concelebrate. It's just that we just never really did when I was in the fraternity, and so we just never did.
Right.
And of course, now in the community that I am, we're exclusive use based on the same wording in our Constitution that's in the fraternity's wording of their Constitution. But then, and so on the other hand, is it a shell game? Maybe. Some are arguing that this is kind of the pronist approach where it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back. or you affirm certain people at certain times, but then later you drop the hammer. It could be that. I don't know. In the end, all we have to do is, it's like you said at the beginning, at the top of the hour, it's something good. Let's take it while we got it.
Yeah. Father Chad, there's a book called Persecuted from Within, How the Saints Endured Crises in the Church by Joshua Charles. I did an interview with him, but he pointed out that in all these crises, St. Athanasius, St. Alphonsus Liguori, all these guys were persecuted by the church. It seems to me that if you're not being persecuted today by the church, I'm thinking you're not on the right side right now. I'm just giving you my take. But it seems to me that the church has always persecuted the saints.
Yes, that's true. Absolutely. I mean, we saw it was even in the Old Testament, but the Jews, right?
Of course.
They're putting the prophets to death, etc. It's the same dynamic. Yeah, I think that's actually true. I think that's also one of the reasons why you see a lot of the faithful bishops are keeping their head low, because and some of them are being persecuted already. And so, but you're going to see they know that the persecution could be coming even from within the church. Mm-hmm. It's also one of the reasons why priests a lot of times won't speak out on certain things, because they're afraid of getting canceled. Yeah. And it's precisely the people within the church that will try and cancel them, or can cancel them in some cases.
Wow. Just a quick question. St. Ignatius of Loyola in his exercises says that if one fears men much, he will never do great things for God. He says all that one does for God arouses persecution. It seems that this is a consistent teaching of the saints, that maybe what's happening is we're fearing man too much and not enough God. Am I onto something?
Oh, absolutely. I think some of it also is the fact that, it's always been this way, even in the times when things were actually good.
Yeah.
When you have a saint, he would get persecuted because either out of clerical envy, or they just didn't like the guy, or they didn't want to look bad because he's looking good.
Yes.
That sort. So I think it's just right now, it's just that it's worse than it has been in the past for a while, or possibly even in the history of the church. But that being said, it's the same thing. It's just a matter of degree.
Got it. Yes.
Father, since we know that we're living in there's two streams that have been flowing from Cain and Abel. You have salvation history and damnation history. Mm-hmm. Right now, in the present situation that we find ourselves in, we know that the God's grace flows through patriarchy. So my question is, when the patriarchy is weak or compromised, are the children affected? And what I mean by that, I'll just be very specific. The Catholic Church has this patriarchal structure, the Pope and the bishops, and many of them in positions of authority, lawful authority, they're compromised. They're not living according to their office, personally, in their teachings. And then we have another patriarchal figure, the president. Presidents are called the father of this country since George Washington. And so we have a patriarch called Joe Biden, a civil patriarch, who's a Catholic by name, at least, baptized Catholic. My question is, when the spiritual patriarchs and the civil patriarchs are doing things that are objectively wrong and immoral and unlawful, are we, the children or the citizens, are we affected as well?
Yes, we are, because the two principal functions of authority, so a patriarch is simply, it means ruled by the father, ultimately, is what it indicates. And that's the natural law structure that God actually set up, that the husbands are the head of the household. It's St. Thomas says it's actually part of the natural law. Of course, it's clear even when Eve is told he will lord it over you, but then also St. Paul says women be submissive to your husbands, etc. So the father is, but the two principal functions of an authority is to provide and to protect. So it protects us from, like, say, on a spiritual level, from diabolic attacks and things of that sort. But spiritually, that also means that it provides for us in the sense that I kind of have this phrase that grace flows downhill. So if the father is doing his stuff properly, those who are in charge, it will protect those under them. And if he is doing his prayer, sufferings, and good works for the sake of his family, then those under him will benefit greatly. I think it's in Proverbs where it says something to the effect of, a virtuous father will bring honor to generations or something like that, that the children after that are the ones that will benefit as a result of it. The inversion of that is actually the case, which we talk about, and we will be actually talking about at some point up in this upcoming conference, which is the fact that, if the father of the house, for example, commits sin, he allows the demons into the family household, and so they can be attacked, etc. The same is actually true in relationship to our country. And so the other part of it, though, is that part of the reason that we're suffering under these people is our own fault, because we get the leaders we deserve. This is something I've mentioned before, and people really react, and they're like saying, "We don't deserve this." Well, actually, if we look at the fact that the statistical difference between, they say we're Catholics and we don't deserve it. Well, look at the statistical difference between Catholics and the general populace living together before they're married is practically nil.
Exactly.
We have killed 60 million people.
Yeah, that's right.
60 million. And that's just that. Now we've got euthanasia going off the charts. Things that exorcists that we've started noticing is the fact that we've got cannibalism is now starting to be on the rise. That you can see that actually in the news.
Really?
In various places, that's starting to rise. The occult is drastically off the charts, right? And so I actually ask people, what does this mean about us as a people, that God would give us buy-in as a leader? Because the leader, in a certain sense, also reflects us. So I jokingly just say, well, that just means we're brain dead and we shuffle along.